Computer Village, Ikeja Underbridge, end of Awolowo Way, Oba Akron, Access, Anifo Wushe Street and Medical Road. To avoid any fire outbreak, the spokesperson for NEMA Southwest, Ibrahim Fari Luye, asked residents to avoid open fire in affected areas. Now, the chairman, Academic Staff Union of Universities, University of Abuja chapter, Dr. Kasim Umaru, on Tuesday said 7 persons were kidnapped in the early morning raid on the institution. The ASU chapter leader called for prayers for the release of the victims. Gunmen had stormed the senior staff quarters of the Uni Abuja in Giri Gwagwalada area council of the FCT on Tuesday around 1 a.m. and left with the abductees. Another lecturer, Professor Basi Udom, whose 2 children were also abducted, said he narrowly escaped the incident.
About the decadence of security in this country. Is it only when we are all dead that people will know that there's insecurity in this country? Let everybody not start going to the gutters. When I say these things, people will start to think. As I am, you look at me, I schooled in the University of Port Harcourt. And I have been a big boy. I know what to do. The situation is getting out of hand. Something has to be done. The poor are the ones suffering. A country that security, that bandits will go and kidnap people in an armory. What will happen to some of us in these porous areas? I am here seated in my house, but my child is there in the bush. My daughter is there in the bush. This is man inhumanity to man. The annihilation of the downtrodden. There's no more a voice for the voiceless. Hi, Basito. Sorry, sir.
The National Union of Teachers has condemned the kidnap of the vice president of the junior secondary school Yebu in the Kwali area council of Abuja. The National Secretary General of the National Union of Teachers, Mike Ene, condemned the attack and called on the government to facilitate the release of Nuhu. Some yet to be identified gunmen had on Saturday raided the staff quarters of the school and kidnapped the vice principal, Muhammad Nuhu. Sources familiar with the matter narrated that the kidnappers, who came in at their large numbers, shot indiscriminately before making away with the vice principal. It was also mentioned that the security personnel at the gate were tied to facilitate easy operations. Now, they're following an increase in the number of out of school children in the southeast of the country as a result of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The United Nations Children's Fund has kicked off back-to-school campaigns. They also embarked on an enrollment drive for the out-of-school children in the area. The chairman of Universal Basic Education Board in the Ebonyi State, Chief Hyacinth Ikbo, disclosed this during a town hall meeting with health teachers, PTA executives, parents, and other stakeholders at Afikpo South local government area of the state. Ikbo raised alarm over the number of out-of-school children in Ebonyi State and said that all hands must be on deck to bring the children back to school because they are the future leaders of this country. Now, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has cautioned petrol marketers against unauthorized pump price increase and product hoarding. NUPRC's operations controller in Bauchi, Abdullahi Ilyasu, gave the warning on Wednesday. His warning came against the backdrop of long queues in some fuel servicing stations in the parts of the state. Ilyasu said the federal
African leaders are continuing to push the international community for more help with that.
Defaulting marketers found shortchanging consumers will be sanctioned appropriately. He said the official pump price remains between 162 naira and 165 naira per litre. We'll take a commercial break now. We'll come back. We'll continue with the rest of the news.
Swift Dry Cleaners Limited, professional dry cleaners, best in dry cleaning and laundry services, that meets the needs of our consumers. Yeah, Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Yeah. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Yeah, for clean wash and quick delivery. Yeah, Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. For clean wash and quick delivery. Ooh.
Swift Dry Cleaners. Clean wash, quick delivery.
You're welcome back. African News now. African leaders are continuing to push the international community for more financial justice to adapt to the effects of climate change. Speaking on Tuesday at the COP26 summit in Glasgow, the head of the African Union, Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi, highlighted Africa's plight. The president of the African Development Bank also delivered a speech at the event. Additional noted that Africa loses $7 to $15 billion a year due to climate change, which could rise to $50 billion a year by 2040. The continent will need $336 billion to adapt to climate change, and this does not include several $billion needed to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Africa simply cannot breathe. Africa's 54 nations contribute only about 3% of global emissions, a fact that surprises many people when they find out. The continent is also a home to 1.3 billion people in the world. South Africa's ruling ANC party on Tuesday looked to deliver its worst ever electoral performance since the end of apartheid, with support expected to dip below 50% in local government polls, with more than 50% of polling stations reporting following Monday's fiercely contested elections. The African Nations National Congress stood at slightly under 46% of the vote, according to Electoral Commission figures. Voters were called to elect local representatives responsible for hot-button issues, including electricity, housing, water, and sanitation. Poor service delivery has dogged South Africa for years, while senior ANC party members, including former President Jacob Zuma, face corruption investigations. Meanwhile, unemployment has hit 34.4%. Tanzania has received 500,000 Sinopharm vaccine doses